You do not need thousands of dollars to start stacking Bitcoin. If you've got a small budget, a gaming PC, or you're just trying to figure out the smartest place to start, this video is going to save you a lot of time. I'm going to break down 3 realistic methods, the pros and cons of each, and which one I think is best for beginners in 2026. All right, guys, let's get started. We're not going to waste any time here. Option number 1, dollar cost averaging or DCAing into Bitcoin. Now, some of you may have heard of this before. It's an age-old method with any cryptocurrency to start getting into and accumulating some Bitcoin. So what is it? Let's have a very quick read, give you a few examples of how this can pay off. So dollar cost averaging or DCAing is a strategy that involves allocating a fixed amount of resources to a particular asset at regular intervals. So in this case, we're talking about Bitcoin. So without having to read through everything here, basically all you're doing with dollar cost averaging is starting with a fixed amount. That could be $1, that could be $5, $10, whatever your budget is. And basically at every fixed interval, daily, weekly, monthly, you're going to buy yourself a little bit of Bitcoin. Now, what does this do? This takes out the huge volatility in it. So for example, one day you buy $10 worth of Bitcoin at $60,000. The next week you buy $10 worth of Bitcoin at 65. The following week, 55. What you're doing here is leveraging the market. You're basically relying on the fact that it's going to go up and down and up and down, and then hopefully end up, leaving you with extra Bitcoin than you've paid for. Now, this strategy has worked for a number of people in the past, and here's a couple of quick examples of exactly what it can do. So there's a pretty famous story that's been going around for years now, and it's about this guy that bought $30 of Bitcoin every day for 8 years. So on the screen here, they're just showing all the different transactions. This is working like we said in the DCAing average, right? So some days his $30 lost value, some days his $30 increased value, for a total investment over that time period of $86,370. Now, there are no exact numbers on when this guy sold or when he didn't sell, but if you're a long-term holder and a long-term believer in Bitcoin, you know, you could assume, looking at the all-time charts here, we'll make sure you can see that. You know, if you said back in 2018, you know, Bitcoin was worth about $16,000. You know, he's buying all the way up here, all the way down. He's buying it for as low as $3,000, $4,000, and all the way up. People have speculated at a bare minimum case, this bag could be worth, you know, about a 4x, close to $400,000 if he never sold. You know, if they sold half of it at this point, could be worth half that, but you get the gist, right? You're buying all the way up, all the way down, and then ideally trying to sell at this peak. Easier said than done. Someone who's been in crypto for years now, let me tell you, picking the high is not easy. I've sold plenty of times at the low. So DCAing is a good strategy to sort of mitigate that risk, but like anything with crypto, it could work out at a loss for you, but ideally the simplest and easiest way to get started with no thinking involved, and a method that's tried and tested, proven over years over different cryptocurrencies and stocks. Now, a really cool way to visualize this, over here on kraken.com, they've got a little what if sort of chart right here, right? So fairly self-explanatory. What if you had invested $10 a week into BTC since 2021 and you were still holding today? Your total investment over that time period would have been $2,610. You would have turned that into $4,613. And you see, you're riding all these losses out, right? So, you know, you would have lost 20% if you'd sold, you know, 6 months to a year later, but then you'd be back up, then you're down, right? If you'd sold around this period, you'd be a 3x. So you can really get an idea of how it works. And if you sort of shorten that time frame up, it gets a lot worse, right? So if you started on Jan 1st, 2025, you're basically losing for most of the time. You're up 15%. This is when we're sort of hitting those all-time high periods, and then it's just down, down, down. So Often, and people will argue this to the end of time, timing is better than time in, or time in is better than timing, right? You can decide what works better for you. For crypto, for Bitcoin in particular, I would say it's about time in, so the longer that you spend in, but you could also argue that the timing's important as well, right? Like, you know, if you bought, say, $1,000 of Bitcoin right at this point, and then you sold it up at this point, you get the gist. So a really, really cool little way to sort of visualize how dollar cost averaging works over time. Now, method number 2, which is inevitably a hands-free DCAing method. This is by using a bot, right? So this is a DCA bot. This is what we're using. It's a grid trading bot. So all this thing is doing is it's buying low and selling high. If you want to try something like this out, I'll leave a link down below. But like we say with anything, this may not work. You may lose your money, you may make some money. And I'll show you some real life examples of how it's worked for me, just after I show you how easy this is to do, right? So if you couldn't be bothered, you know, buying every week, every day, you could set yourself up a grid trading bot. Now, Bitcoin isn't necessarily the best grid trading bot to start on. I'll show you a couple of others, but how it would work is you would literally come over to this website, pinex.com. You would click on this grid trading bot and create. Now you can make your own trading bot, or you can just copy someone else's trading bot, right? Now they have numbers here about what the profit is supposed to be over the lifetime of these bots. I wouldn't 100% trust what these numbers say here. They could be taking best case scenario. I was gonna say they could be taking worst case scenario, but I highly doubt that. But they're this simple, right? You click start copying, you pick how much money in USDT you want to invest. This is trading Bitcoin against USDT. Is pegged to the US dollar. 1 USDT is worth 1 US dollar, or within a few, you know, decimal places of a cent of a US dollar. You click create and you're away. It's pretty simple, really easy to start. But let me show you how exactly these have worked for me over time. So right now we're looking at a couple of the bots that I have running currently. So up top we have a hype/USDT grid trading bot and a Doge/USDT trading bot. And it's pretty self-explanatory, right? You can see the profit and loss over here. You can see the grid plus the total annualized. So this is where we talk about timing and time in right now. So our hype USDT trading bot, we're reinvesting every trade that we have. Made $92 profit, but because when we bought this hype, it's now worth less, we actually lose $20 of that. So still up about $70 on this trading bot. If we look at the Doge bot, for instance, now Doge is a good one because it's very volatile, right? It's moving up and down constantly by cents every single day. Bitcoin doesn't move quite as much, except recently, as I'm sure you've noticed with the markets, everything's moving quite a lot, mostly in the down direction. So this bot's been up for nearly a year now, and you can see we've made $567. This is off the different transactions that it places every day. You can see going down here, it's just trading, buying low, selling high every single day long. But because when I bought a majority of this Doge, the price was at 20 cents per Doge. We're now down at 9 cents, right? So if I was to sell today, I'd be selling for a loss of about $520. So the time in, look, I've accumulated a good amount of profit, but because the value of the Dogecoin when I bought it compared to now is down so far, would eventually end up losing the $500. Now, this market, in my opinion, is getting pretty bottomed out. If you did want to start a grid trading bot, now may be a good time. But again, like we keep saying, it could go down to nothing. You could end up worse off. So just a bit of real life, you know, how it looks. You know, we've got one that's going well, one that isn't going so well based on the numbers. But I'm not selling, so I'm not realizing this loss right now. So yeah, just a bit of an example of you can have some wins and losses with sort of DCAing, especially with these grid trading bots. Now, method number 3, which seems very obvious, just mine Bitcoin. The only problem with that right now, if you're trying to do it on a budget, you can't get any profitable home Bitcoin miners, but there is a way around that. Of course, you can just buy a currently profitable altcoin miner and convert that to Bitcoin. So we're looking at here a couple of different examples, and I won't spend too much time on this because you get the gist. But right now, if we look at the Aleo AE0 and the Ice River RXO, these are making 30 cents profit after electricity and 16 cents profit after electricity. Now, what you're going to do with these, if you did want to get into something like this, is you would buy them, you would set and forget them, you would auto convert your currency, whatever you're mining, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you prefer. You could go that DCA style and do it every day on the same time or every week on the same time. Convert it to Bitcoin, and then just hope that when Bitcoin reaches its all-time highs, that this income is, in theory, if we're currently at $60,000 per Bitcoin, goes up to 120, you're doubling your money there again, and ideally you're paying these off. Now, the only advantage of these really is that they're easy to set up, and they're cheap, right? 330 bucks. What's this one? Well, there you go, not so cheap. Well, I don't know what Bitmars is doing there, but about 450 bucks, 500 bucks, you can get this RXO. Probably even cheaper if you wanted to get it secondhand. There is, of course, these Canon Avalon Qs. Now, this could work out well in your favor as well, but they are about 1,500 bucks. So some may argue not necessarily in the budget range again. But if you're spending $4 on electricity, and the price ends up doubling up to say nearly $6 daily income, you inevitably could make a profit if you hold long enough or sell at the right time. Now, the other option for directly mining Bitcoin, not in the budget realm at all, you can buy yourself a big boy ASIC miner, one of those ones that has these loud fans, uses a ton of power and screams, but you get it hosted, and I'll show you how that's worked out for me so far. So this is an S21 XP. This is a big boy Bitcoin miner, like we said. 3,645 watts, so you can't run this on a household outlet. But you can see right now it's still profiting $4.40 a day. Now, the only way I'm getting this profit is by hosting. This is about a $4,000 machine. When I bought it, it was a little bit more expensive, about $5,500. That's US, by the way, about 8,000 Aussie. Definite investment. Ask my wife how she feels about that. She might be feeling a bit better now though, because as we can see, I've had this one running for about 11 months or so now, and we've yielded 2,470 US dollars worth of Bitcoin. Now, this is hosted at a really cheap rate through a company called One Miners. They have 5 cent electric rate per kilowatt hour, which you cannot match anywhere else. And you can see just day in, day out, we're buying, we're mining and accumulating Bitcoin. And this website, this hosting company, even takes the electricity costs out of your earning balance. So you don't actually need to do a thing, but that's if you want to spend a little bit more money and take the gamble, right? So we're currently almost halfway paid off on this unit, just around a year. And, pricing is going down. Obviously, our yield was about double this. About 6 months ago, we were earning a bit more. But again, we just keep on mining through this, what now is a bear market, keep holding, do that DCA strategy, right? This is basically, mining is basically a DCA strategy. Even if you're mining at a loss on these smaller units, you know what I mean? You're still, if the price goes up, ideally in the green. But again, you could lose it all. But just a bit of an example of how mining could pay off using altcoin miners, even buying a home Bitcoin miner or a big boy miner like this S21 and just get it hosted, low electric rate. Don't worry about the noise. Don't worry about the heat. Now, the last method I want to talk about, and probably my favorite and probably the best, right? And I'll explain why in a second, is renting out your PC. So let's say you've got a gaming PC at home, right? You've already sunk the cost on it. You say you're online for, 8 hours a day, or if you work from the same PC at home, you're leaving it overnight, it's not doing anything. This is when you can rent these things out. So we're here over on salad.com, and this is a really easy plug and play sort of system to rent your PC out. I'll leave some videos and links. Check the description for all of this down below, and you can learn a little bit more about this. But basically what it's doing, say you're using your PC until 10 o'clock at night, it's doing nothing, you're going to turn it off. Or you might want to accumulate a little bit more USD, in this case for Salad, and convert it or buy Bitcoin. You got your 4090 right here. You're renting it out for 18 cents an hour. You know, that's before electricity costs overnight while you sleep. So, you know, you use your PC for work during the day if you game at night, and then you just let it run on Salad overnight. Now, yes, it will be, you know, using power, but generally with Salad and other companies like this for high-end gaming sort of rigs like your 4090s, your 5090s, even your 3090s, at most sort of residential electric rates, you're still going to be profitable after you've paid for the power. It pays you in PayPal, and then you convert that to Bitcoin. You can do that daily. End the year up with a few hundred Bitcoin or something. Make use of that hardware 24/7 instead of just turning it off. Now, there are other ways to get a little bit more serious about this. This is a program called Octaspace. It's a rental. Basically, what you're doing is you're renting your PC out again, the same as you did with Salad, but the only difference is you get an uptime score, a reliability score. So just say if you use the plug and play, the Windows version of this Octaspace program, and you were mid-rental, then you shut the rental off, you know, to use your PC as you would during the day or during the evening, you get like a negative rental score, right? So that wouldn't necessarily work out very well because it would get hard to be rented again. But if you had a dedicated rig or a spare PC with any sort of GPU in it, you know, you can rent these things out for up to 12 bucks a day. I've got a number of sort of 5090s, even a 4060 Ti, which as you can see is made like $6 in the past 24 hours. That's been running constantly on a job. So another really, really good way to make some sort of passive income. Screen over here for you here. And you can see the market, there's a ton of these on, you know, 20 cents an hour these are making. So, you know, what's that, like $5 a day before electricity as well. You know, they have 3090s on here as well, which are going for a little bit less, but you know, 5 cents, 15 cents, 16 cents, 12 cents, 10 cents, 6 cents. So you get the gist. Octaspace is sort of that step above Salad when it comes to this stuff. Still a really good way to sort of make some passive income. Now, as you can see also very briefly on Salad, the problem with all of these programs is going to be demand, right? So you can see the demand for a lot of these higher end stuff right now, like the 4090s and the 5090s, is low. So there's no guarantees your rig will get used for anything overnight. But of course, when it is, you know, if you've got a 4060 Ti Super or a 3090, it'll get rented out the whole time. Now you can undervolt your stuff, you know, you can do all that sort of stuff. Or if you're renting and your power's included, or you have a little office computer or something, you could always just use this at your own will. Now, another couple of very easy ways to rent your PC out without having to do the AI rental type stuff and do more sort of crypto mining rental stuff are using programs like NiceHash that we can see right here, or Cryptex. So basically what these are going to do very quickly is they're going to inspect your hardware. You can see here vaguely it says benchmark. It's going to see what CPU you have. It's going to see what GPU you have. It's going to mine the most profitable cryptocurrency at the time and pay you out in Bitcoin. So the advantages of these is that it saves you having to do any conversion, right? So with Salad, it's paying you in USD, you'd have to buy Bitcoin. And with Octaspace, it's paying you in Octa and you'd have to convert it to Bitcoin there. So the advantage of NiceHash Miner and the Cryptex Miner is that they're just going to pay you directly out in Bitcoin. The only problem with NiceHash and Cryptex is that they're crypto mining, right? So different to the Salad and the Octaspace, which are rental rigs, they can often use no power, right? If they're using LLMs or, you know, things like that, different rental tasks, Ubuntu Windows, often they use no power, right? Which is going to increase your profit dramatically. But if you're using NiceHash and if you're using Cryptex, they're going to be crypto mining. And let me tell you, crypto mining, there's pretty much nothing that's profitable right now, unless you have a $0 electric rate or you're mining on somebody else's power, which I don't recommend. They're probably going to not make you a ton of money, but it is a really good way to start accumulating some Bitcoin, and their plug and play can set them both up within 5 minutes. So just a few different ways there, guys, where you can sort of accumulate a bit of Bitcoin without having to spend any money or even a very little bit money. So I like all three of these methods. I've had success with all of these. I've had losses with all of these. So maybe give them a try and let me know how you go, guys. Like we said, I'll leave links in the description or in the pinned comment or something like that. I've also got a Discord link in the description which you can join, ask more questions, and plenty of people in there who can help you understand a little bit more about this. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!